7 days.
No.
University professor as well, college professor. It was just a little indie studio in Poland that nobody knew about. Well, I couldn't. They were all in Polish. I mean, what is it? Is it a tree? Is it a tree spirit? Is it a, it's...
Now, coverage like no other. Bringing you videos from the event floor. You're watching convention coverage.
No, but yeah, it's great to have you here as Geralt of Rivia.
Geralt, yeah.
Geralt.
Yeah, it's a funny one, Geralt, because people all over the world get it right, but people all over the world get it wrong as well.
Apparently like me.
Yeah, some people say Geralt, some people call him Gerald.
Gerald is a bit wrong.
Yeah.
Because there's no D in there.
You'd think, looking at the name,
Yeah.
if they looked at the name and then and see the T on the end,
Yeah.
if they still call him Gerald, then, I don't know.
I think that's willful ignorance is what that is, or
there's all kinds of reasons. Just for the fun of it, who knows?
Ah. So, I mean, that's a pretty expansive set of games. I mean, you've been the voice since the beginning.
Yeah, we recorded Witcher 1 in 2005, spring of 2005. So, is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so a long time ago now.
Yeah. And these are pretty expansive games. I mean, what kind of sessions are you looking at when you do these games?
It changed over the years. Witcher 1, we recorded all of it in, I think it was 7 days.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there were pickups and stuff later on, a couple months down the line, but the main part of the game we recorded over the course of just 6 or 7 days. They were long days. They were like 10-hour days, which
is pretty unheard of for voice acting.
Yeah, voice actors don't do that anymore.
No.
The longest a session will be now is 4 hours, which is correct. It's as it should be, because voices get tired after a long time.
I've got a few friends in the business, and they've definitely told me a few things about time frames.
Yeah. Oh, I did this one game called Twin Caliber. I think it was for the PS2 or PS3. And anybody played Twin Caliber? No, it's an old one now.
Yeah, PS2. Anybody alive during Twin Caliber?
Oh. We recorded Twin Caliber over 2 or 3 days, and it's a two-person shooter kind of thing. I played Sheriff Fortman, I think his name was, and it's all about Sheriff Fortman and a prisoner from the local prison, and it's all a zombie apocalypse kind of game and stuff like that. But it was 2 full days, maybe it was 3, me and the other actor working with each other, but it was all shouting. So at the end of the first day, I could barely speak, and we recorded like 6-7 hours that day.
Oh my gosh!
I went home, peppermint tea, honey and lemon, all that stuff, and came back the next day. 6 or 7 more hours of shouting, like top of the lungs shouting, top of the voice. And after the final session, I was wrecked. My voice took about 2 or 3 days just to recover.
Wow.
So, but going back to your earlier question, how long it takes to record these things. I mean, Witcher 1 was over a short period of time. Witcher 3 was over the course of about 3 years. But that's not it's not recording every day. That's recording in blocks of time as the script is developed and finalized. So, I think from the time we recorded the E3 trailer for Witcher 3 to the time we finished the final pickups for Blood and Wine, it was a good 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're doing things in blocks. So you're doing Geralt, and then what are you doing in between times?
Well,
if you can talk about that stuff.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, yes. I think any game that I was recording at the same time as The Witcher has come out now, so I can talk about it. But I think for those in the audience who don't know, I have been for my sins a university professor as well, college professor. So in England, where I live. And I've lived there since 1999.
Wow.
I was the course leader for the BA Honors Acting course from 2000 2005 to 2017, and all of The Witcher was recorded during that period of time. So I was a full-time teacher, teaching acting, running a course, managing staff, and running off to London a couple days a week for weeks on end to record The Witcher. So yeah, I was a busy boy for quite
Sounds
a long
like
time
it. Wow.
there. Yeah,
That's dedication.
and I was also recording other games. During that period of time, I recorded, I can't remember. I'd have to go look at my IMDb or something. Lots of other things.
Is that so? Besides the teaching and being a professor, that's the mainstay of the other side of the life is the voice acting and doing the video games.
Yeah, for a long time it was. The teaching, I always wanted to teach, and I loved it when I was doing it, but it started to become too much. I didn't have time to devote the attention to both careers that I wanted to have, to give them the attention they deserved. So it came to a point where, with the teaching, there was a lot of stress. Loved my students, loved my team, but I decided to leave that job and refocus on acting again. Partly because it became a bit like Groundhog Day, because I'd been there for nearly 13 years at that point. It was like repeating the same year, just with different people. And things were happening with The Witcher and with other games that I was doing, and I really wanted to explore new avenues. So yeah, I do other things as well, but I teach workshops and things like that.
So still a little bit of the teaching on the side, then kind of backwards now, more of the VA versus, and then a little bit of the teaching on the side versus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just kind of reshaped my work-life balance, as it were.
Well, that's cool. Figuring out what you want to do. So I mean, getting into the Witcher. I mean, how was it? Was it getting into the Witcher, being Geralt, and winding up being this main character for so long? Where did that start? Was it just VA? All of a sudden, the word completely escapes me. Auditioning, or
well, yeah, for The Witcher, it was just another audition for just another game for Witcher 1. I'd been voice acting in games since 1999, so I was already well experienced and well versed in the nature of the work and doing it. It's a funny thing, voice acting. I think there's several answers to the question. I think there's The Witcher, obviously, but then there's voice acting as well. Anybody out there interested in voice acting, doing it yourselves? Yeah. Okay. Well, this is good advice for you then. First of all, it's a relatively saturated market, so be aware of that when you go into it. It's a tough business now. When I got into it, it was an emerging market. When I first started, I'd done some voiceover work for various things, for like radio adverts and things like that, but when I started in games, it was relatively new, these voices in games. 1999 was the first one I did. It was a game called Independence War II: Edge of Chaos. And I managed to bag the lead role, and then that company just kept bringing me back and back and back, and eventually they brought me back for The Witcher. But it was just another game. The books hadn't come out in English yet, so I wasn't aware of the Witcher world at all. In fact, most of Western audiences weren't aware of it, because I think the books were only out in Polish and German at the time. So I had to learn about the Witcher world from the developers, which were CD Projekt Red, and the writers on the project. And I just went to an audition. Guy, whose name I always absolutely butcher, Boris. Oh, now I'm not even going to remember his surname. Boris from CD Projekt Red. You might have heard of him before. He was one of the lead writers and translators, because he speaks Polish and English. He's American, but his parents were Polish, so he grew up speaking both. so he was the lead translator on it. And he was there at the audition, and he said, "Right, Doug, I've heard some of your previous work. It all sounds good. We're going to do something similar, but a little bit different, a little bit out of your range, perhaps here. Let's see what you can do." So he kept pushing me lower and lower and lower in my register.
I say it's very, very. Your speaking voice is very different from.
It is, but it's more over the years because my voice is now trained to go to Geralt. He's part of my everyday speech as well. So I often find myself walking around the house, and I'll just be, as you do when you're walking around the house, talking to yourself, you know. And, damn, I gotta do the laundry.
That's the first thing my mind went to.
Gotta do laundry. Yeah, okay. Gotta fold those socks. They're getting out of control. You know, so those are the beasts I usually deal with on a daily basis. Yeah, so at the audition...
You can't just
pushed me
Ignis
down
those
and-
away.
There's no sword for socks. So eventually, what he said as an inspiration, I don't know, I was doing stuff that he liked and stuff, but he kept saying, "No emotion, bring it down, and flatten it, you know, flatten it." And he said, "Doug, think of Clint Eastwood in the Dirty Harry films." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah." So you can just imagine Geralt saying, "Go ahead, go ahead, punk, make my day." So that's kind of where the Geralt voice came from as an inspiration, and that's what I always went back to. Yeah. But it is a very different voice from my natural speaking voice. But you can kind of hear it in there, can't you? You can kind of hear Geralt creeping into my tone every now and then, especially if I, you know, drop at the end of a sentence, or if I just simply start to talk a little bit more quietly like this. So he's part of me now.
Did they get you to voice coach Henry Cavill?
Did I what?
Did they get you to voice coach Henry Cavill in the show?
No, but he did.
Because he's got that low gruff register, and that's kind of what I was wondering, because it's been the game and him.
Yeah.
You got Henry Cavill, you got Superman on screen now, and two very different characters for him to play. But it's kind of interesting if they get you. Well, this is what he sounds like in the video game. I wonder how many hours he must have had to listen to you to try to get that down.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Henry, like me, Henry's natural speaking voice is not that low.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really pleased when, you know, Henry on several occasions has credited me with inspiring his version of Geralt's voice, which is really kind of him. And he's a really generous guy. I was fortunate to meet him at the Series 1 Netflix launch in London. He invited me to come to the launch, which was really sweet.
Really nice of him.
And afterwards, we met beforehand, shook hands, had some Geralt jokes with each other, and then watched the premiere. And then we went to an after party at which he had a kind of private room for his family, and he took me in there, and we had a lovely couple hours just chatting about video games and acting and the world of The Witcher and stuff. And I can honestly say, he is a beautiful man. He's just so generous and genuine, and you know, he's a lovely guy.
That's cool.
Interesting to me. That might be interesting to you, because his Geralt voice is, in many ways, so similar to mine. I found it fascinating. I was recording a game just the other day from my home studio. More often than not, I go into studios, but you know, if it's a small indie developer or something like that, often they'll ask me to just do it from home. And they wanted basically my Geralt voice, but they wanted it with a British accent. So I did this, and I realized about halfway through I was just channeling Henry.
That's cool. I was kind of wondering what the crossover for that would be. That's good.
Thank you for the signatures. They're awesome. This means a lot that you're here. But one of the biggest things I'm curious with is, how did you get involved in playing Geralt? And when you found out that you were going to be portraying such a iconic character now in the gaming realm, what motivated you to do that?
Interesting question. I mean, what got me involved was it was a job. And even though I was employed full-time at a university teaching acting, I never ever for an instant wanted to give up acting professionally. It's what I love. So when I got the job, I was thrilled, of course, and I love high fantasy. So getting to know this new high fantasy world was really exciting. But when we recorded Witcher 1, it was just a little indie studio in Poland that nobody knew about. Nobody knew about The Witcher, so there was nothing to be excited about, really, except, doing the job and eventually seeing the game come out, and then seeing what people's reaction to it were, which is always of interest. It wasn't until Witcher 3 that I started to twig what The Witcher was becoming. And it wasn't until about 6 months after the game came out in 2015 that I realized just how big it had gotten. So I think it's one of those things where, if you're an actor and you're going into a franchise that's already big, then that's a big deal. And you suddenly find yourself sitting at the helm of something much bigger than yourself. And that can be quite overwhelming in a very positive way, but also, in like a holy crap, what am I going to do with this kind of way? But that wasn't my experience with The Witcher. It was a very very gradual progression towards what it eventually became. So my experience of The Witcher and how enormous it is, I was going to say became, but it still is. Like I say, it was a gradual development.
Very good.
I think once I did realize just how big it became, it certainly was a factor in me deciding to leave the teaching job. So it became quite an important influence on the direction of my life, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's amazing.
Yeah, there was another part of your question. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I was going to say, when you were offered the job, did you, like Henry Cavill, go and read the books? And have you seen the original Polish series and the film from Poland?
If there's a film, I haven't seen it, but I did find at some point, I found the original Polish television series. Which looks very dated now, obviously.
Yeah.
And I watched a couple of episodes, and because it was in Polish, I was just like, this isn't really helping me that much, so I gave up on that. But the books didn't start coming out until halfway through recording Witcher 2. So, I couldn't go to the books.
And so you haven't read them yet?
Well, I couldn't. They were all in Polish. So, I had to rely on the Polish developers to explain to me who Geralt is, and and what he's all about, and what this world is. I mean, I didn't know what a Leshen was. Drowners? What are those? I don't know. So I had to learn all that from the people who, were making the game. But it was good. They had concept art and things like that they could show me, so I could get a visual sense of the world.
Have you met the author?
No.
Okay. What is your favorite moment in The Witcher 3?
Well, there's a couple. They're all related to Ciri. I think one of my favorite moments in the game, it's actually a cutscene. It's not a playable moment, and I forget the details of it. It's the feeling of it that I remember mostly. It's a scene where Geralt and Ciri are laying on the grass in a meadow, laughing, and it's like a father-daughter kind of moment. And I think it's also tied in with a bit of a cutscene that's a piggyback ride, which is oddly probable because Geralt's got two swords on his back. In my memory, that's all tied up together, but I think one's in the snow and the other one's another thing. So there's that. And another one, yeah, there's actually three. Another one is on Skellige, or not on Skellige, but in the Skellige Isles when he finally finds her in the game, and they have that conversation in the cabin on the hillside. That's one of my favorite moments. And the other one is, and I don't want to give too much away here, it's the snowball fight. And those of you who've played the game, you have a choice when Ciri invites you to have a snowball fight with her. And my advice is to say yes. Don't be a grumpy Geralt.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
There's a new term for you. Don't be a grumpy Geralt.
Don't be a grumpy Geralt.
My question for you would be, what's your favorite monster in the Witcher series?
I think I'm going to have to go with the Leshen, actually, because it's such a unique monster. Nobody knows what it is. I mean, what is it? Is it a tree? Is it a tree spirit? Is it a, it's, depending on the source you go to, it's a creature from another, that came through from another sphere in the conjunction of the spheres. But what kind of world must that have been like? So it's just, I've always, since the beginning, since first finding out about the Witcher world and the monsters in it, I think that monster has really fascinated me because it's just such a creepy critter. But there are so many. One of the things I like about The Witcher is the different kinds of vampires you have. I can't remember all the different names of them offhand, but there's at least 3 or 4 main kinds of vampires that you can encounter in The Witcher, and they all have their different properties. And there's the higher vampires and there's the lower ones, and they all have their unique kind of names. So I thought that was an interesting take on the vampire. One that I hadn't come into contact with before in any, except in Vampire the Masquerade, there's different clans and types and things like that, aren't there? But this particular take I just thought was really interesting.
Thank you for answering.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So knowing kind of tagging along the question there, and here you are over a decade later. I mean, would you have imagined this was where it would have gone? Becoming Geralt?
I just count myself really, really lucky. I think that's, again, with any kind of acting, it's to a certain extent, it's a crapshoot. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it, training, learning your craft, learning, about different genres and styles of acting and all those things. And then you have to apply it in the real world. And so much of that is luck. It's meeting the right person at the right time, in the right, and you being in the right place for the opportunity. That's life, isn't it? That's life. But compared to a career like, not that there's anything wrong with accountancy, but with a career like being an accountant, there's a much more predictable path. And with any art in particular, musician, artist, dancer, actor, whatever it might be, there's a huge, an enormous amount of luck that's involved in that. So I count myself just lucky to have been in the right place at the right time. And I think it's worth saying as well, even being in the right place at the right time for Witcher 1, I almost didn't come back for Witcher 2 and never would have been there for Witcher 3. So me sitting here now involved some more luck. And that luck was, Witcher 1 did pretty well. They developed a cult following. I knew they were going to do a Witcher 2. And I was sitting in my office at the university one day, and a friend of mine called me up and said, "Doug, I've just been to an audition for Geralt of Rivia for Witcher 2. Isn't that you?" because we knew each other well. He's another voice actor, and he knew I'd voiced that character. And I said, yeah, okay, interesting. Thank you very much for letting me know. And so I called up Boris again, the ever-present Boris, and I said, or maybe I messaged him. I don't remember it now, but I got in touch with him, and I basically said, I just heard that you're auditioning for Geralt of Rivia. I'd be happy to audition again if you'd like. And he came back to me a couple days later, and he said, no, Doug, so sorry I didn't tell you. We've gone a different direction with Witcher 2, and they've decided to recast the whole thing. But let me talk to the director, new director on it and everything. And he talked to the director, Kate Saxon, who ended up directing Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. And she went back to my work on Witcher 1, and I found all this out after the first recording session for Witcher 2. What I'm about to tell you. Basically, Kate went back, and they'd been auditioning Geralts for weeks when I found out. And Kate told me after the first recording session for Witcher 2, she said, yeah, I went back and listened to your tapes, and nobody who'd come in was doing the character the justice that you did it. She said, I don't know why we didn't just come back to you in the first place. Sorry to put you through this and stuff. Because I went into it, they invited me back for Witcher 2, which I was thankful for. But it made me nervous, because it made me think, well, what did I do wrong? Why didn't they want me to come back? So I went into the first session for Witcher 2 feeling pretty down on myself, actually. Glad I got the job again, but feeling like I'd been, fed some scraps or something. Oh, sorry, Doug, here you go. You can do it again. You weren't very good last time, but maybe we can make you better. Which is a silly thing to think when they decided to give me the role again. But you can't help but feel that way if you know that they decided to recast, because you don't know what's in their mind. So it was really nice to hear from Kate that for her, I was the right choice. But once again, it's one of those things of, right place, right time. If my friend hadn't called me and told me about the auditions for Geralt, I wouldn't have gotten in touch with Boris, and I may not be sitting here today. So, again, it's just one of those things.
That's crazy.
It sounds like you've played through the games. I'm curious if it's weird hearing your voicing coming back at you. Are you going, oh, I could have done that line better? Or is there some line you're like, I recorded that once as a one-off, and now I've heard, how do you like that silver 200 times? What's it like hearing your own self coming out of a game you're playing?
It can be a little unnerving at first. It's anybody who has, you've all experienced this, I'm sure. Some people are like this with pictures, or certainly with video as well. Do I look like that? Do I move like that? Oh my God, is that how big my tummy is? Or whatever it is. And same thing with your voice. If you record yourself for whatever reason, and then you listen back, often your first reaction is, do I sound like that? I sound weird, So voice actors do exactly the same thing. So when I first started playing Witcher, the first time I played it was on PC, and it was Witcher 1, and literally smoke was coming out of my PC because the game required so much energy that my PC just did not have at the time. But I got to hear my Witcher voice, and so I was like, oh, okay. Witcher 3, turned it on, plugged it in, got on the PS4. And I think for the first maybe 20 minutes, it was a little bit weird. And I was judging my own performance. And then I just played the game because I was in the story. But as a voice actor, as an actor, you're always kind of critical of your own work. You have to be. It's part of the job. So yeah, there are points in the game where, I'll say something in the game, and my actor head goes, "Oh man, I could have done that so much better." You know, and I'm sitting there redoing the line, you know, to myself, going, oh, why'd they choose that one? Why didn't they catch that for a pickup? So you kind of do that. Yeah.
So were there any times during Witcher 1, 2, or 3 that you guys recording, did you improv at all during those times? And did they end up using any of that stuff in the games?
Oh, mostly no. I do like to mess around in the booth, though. You know, if you're doing a long session, if you're doing a 4-hour session, sometimes it's not that you get bored, but you get a little antsy, especially if it's been a while since you had a break. And so sometimes just to shake things up, to keep things fresh, you start messing around. And I often go to silliness. So I'll add things to the end of lines, you know, or I'll say them in a more sultry way than they're really intended, or something like that, you know. Just mess about, and you know, quite often it's not only for me. It's not just to keep myself fresh in the session, but it's also to keep the engineer and the director fresh as well. I like getting a laugh out of the people on the other side of the glass, you know. So I wouldn't be surprised. I can't point to anything specific, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are some improvised lines in The Witcher, in any one of the games. But like I said, I can't point you to an individual
That's fine.
line.
It's probably a lot of hours of
Yeah.
stuff. You can't really remember it all. So.
There's a lot of lines. But I think that's good advice for anybody who wants to get into voice acting as well, is that, you know, a big part of acting is keeping it fresh. And there's a reason why they call a play, because it should be play. So there are concepts in acting, there are all kinds of concepts in acting, but one of them, I'm going to go with truth of the moment, and I'm also going to go with truthfulness. That one of the things that an actor, voice actor or any actor, is going for is a sense of truthfulness in what they're doing. And you don't get truthfulness if you are robotically approaching the job. So quite often in acting, what you have to do, you just have to do it, is around. Sorry, excuse me. Are we 18 plus here?
That's your PG-13 one-off right there.
You have to mess about, because that helps you keep a sense of looseness, relaxation, fluidity, and through those things you find the truthfulness. And truth is subjective, you know. Truth is whatever the world needs that you're trying to fill for truth. If your character can fly, then your character can fly, and that's a truth for them. So it's always a subjective truth, but it's that search for truthfulness that we're looking for. And I think most artists would say that as well. Some people might call it genuineness, or you know, but or to find your flow. Or you know, I've heard it said in different ways, but I think that's a part of good art, is to play. So if you find yourself flagging in a session, anybody who's doing any voice acting or acting of any kind, just start about. Just briefly. Don't make the director mad or anything like that, but you know, just take a moment to just go and reset. Yeah. Good advice for life as well, by the way.
Well, thank you very much.
Definitely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now that Geralt's story is kind of wrapped up after the Blood and Wine DLC, if CD Projekt Red made a new Witcher game, who would you want to be the new protagonist of it?
Who would I want? I suppose it's not up to me, but if I were sitting in a room with CD Projekt Red, I would be pitching, and I bet this has been pitched already. I would be pitching for Witcher 4 to be about Ciri and her hops among the worlds, because that makes sense. I mean, as you said, Witcher 3 kind of wraps up Geralt's journey. So how involved I'll be with any future Witcher games, I have no idea. But it just seems natural to me that any further games, RPGs, in the Witcher world, it would just make sense to make Ciri the protagonist, or the main protagonist, let's say. And I imagine Geralt would come in there somewhere, offering her advice, or, as a memory, or trying to find her, popping into worlds to try and find her. Who knows? That's my guess, though. That would be my pitch.
Okay. Would you want to come back if they asked you to come?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Earlier you talked about going into a franchise. So I guess my question would be, if you had the opportunity to join a pre-existing popular franchise, what would you want to do? Where would you like to go? What kind of franchise would be?
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman. I'd love to do a Batman voice for a game, or for a film. Sure, why not? Let's reach for the stars, Doug. Yeah, Batman game. I'd love to do Uncharted. That would be fun. I do like the Uncharted games.
Be a good Joel for Ellie in Last of Us.
Oh, Joel, I can't do that. That's Troy, man. Troy Baker's got that in the bag.
Yeah, I know. But you would make it.
Well, thank you for saying so. Yeah, Uncharted would be fun. A new protagonist for that franchise. Any of the big ones would be fun. Assassin's Creed. I'd love, if they do a Red Dead 3, love to get in on that. I loved Red Dead Redemption 2. Fantastic game. And I'm really looking forward to later this year, if it doesn't get canceled or something like that, obviously, I'm going to be at Comic-Con Scotland with, now his name's going to escape me. Roger Clark, thank you. Thank you for the prompt. Roger Clark, who plays Arthur Morgan. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. Because we've been bouncing off each other on Twitter and things like that for a while now, and he seems like a really lovely guy, and I'd love to go have a cheeky Jack Daniels with him or something.
That'd be pretty cool.
So CD Projekt Red put out a anniversary thank you video sometime after they'd wrapped up the Witcher series.
10-year anniversary, I think it was.
That's something they had to bring you back in to record, I assume, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah,
and did they direct you to make everyone cry like it was a Pixar movie, or did that just happen kind of naturally?
I think that's in the writing. But certainly, yeah. Thanks for the question. Actually, it's certainly in the writing, and I think it was Kate Saxon. There were actually 3 directors, occasionally 4. But only very occasionally on Witcher 3 and on Witcher 2. There's Kate Saxon, who was the lead director, and then there was Damien Goodwin and Mark Healy. And Mark and Damien very much were taking their lead from Kate. So they worked very closely together, but sometimes I'd have Damien, sometimes it was Mark, more often than not it was Kate. So I'm pretty sure it was Kate who directed the 10-year anniversary video. And I don't remember specifically, but I'm absolutely certain that she will have directed me down the softly, that let's make them weep kind of route. Because that's what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a celebration of this game that so many people love. And what's wrong with a little weeping?
So thank you very much for being here, sir. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Big round of applause to Doug, the Witcher himself.